We should be good. Yeah, we're good. We're here.
It's good to be live.
It is good to be live.
Ken, is it hot where you are?
So yesterday and the day before we got a ton of rain, and we've been needing. We're in a drought, so we needed some rain. So right now it's gorgeous outside. Even yesterday, like during the rain, it was kind of this like warmy, misty rain, which is awesome. It's like summertime thunderstorms, and in Colorado where it's super dry, it's just like it's the best kind of weather when it rains like that. It's awesome because it's got a little bit of humidity and it's just enough to be super comfortable. So right now it's like probably, I don't know, my guess is it's like 85 outside.
It's not bad. That's not bad. You're at a fairly highish altitude as well, right?
Yeah, 50 to 180 feet.
Wow. Did that affect you at all when you moved from Florida?
Well, so I was born in Colorado, right? Like I lived there for 23 years, or here for 23 years. And then I was in Florida for like 16 years. And so when I came back, because I had been in Florida for so long, you do kind of feel a little sick. But my wife, Gina, she's always been in Florida or New York. So sea level her whole life, always. And the first time I brought her out here, we were here for, I think, a week and a half, and she got super, super sick because we also stayed at my parents' house, which is way up in the mountains. So you're at like 7,000 or 8,000 feet or something like that.
Wow.
Like, it's great. Well, I think it was like 7,000 feet. And so she got super, super sick. And yeah. And then the next time we came out, she got sick again, and we thought it was the altitude sickness, but we found out she was pregnant. She's like, this is like, I feel so sick, but I don't know. It's not the same as last time. But yeah, so when I came back, I did kind of feel a little nauseous and kind of just altitude sickness is a weird thing. But they have medicine for it. And for me anyway, after about 2-3 weeks, I was good. She kind of just didn't feel too hot for maybe a month, honestly, just on and off. And I think it was a combination of things when we first moved out here, but now we're totally fine. The worst part is the dryness. When you're coming from somewhere like Florida where it's super humid, like my lips were chapped. I was getting nosebleeds, like all kinds of stuff. But now we've been here a year and a half-ish. So
I was saying, I feel like it seems like you look very lean and athletic now. I don't know if it's just from a healthier lifestyle in Colorado, but
so yeah, I mean, you can do more stuff outside. So we've been outside more. Yeah, I've been out back. I do a lot more yard work here.
I read there's
because it's more fun.
Inverse proportion to altitude and BMI. So of course I've lived at sea level my whole life, and just look at me. But but I hear that on average, people tend to be a little leaner the higher up they get, which I think is interesting. I have a friend whose theory is, it just takes a bit more energy just to move around and do stuff. They actually,
there's a lot of sports teams that work out that do practices here, and like when Olympic athletes, they work out here. They do a lot of their off-season training and stuff in Colorado, or at that higher altitude, just because it gives them a little edge, I guess.
Absorb more oxygen, more powerful lungs, and just natural. Every moment of every day is slightly resistant.
Well, yeah, and you can, like I said, it's super active here. Like there's always people outside. You go to a local park and there's always people there, always, because it's not overly hot, it's not overly humid, and like I'd say 9 months out of the year, it's just gorgeous outside. The other 3 months, you've got your snow and stuff, but even then, the snow lasts for a couple days and then it's gone, and it's back to, you can be in the middle of winter and outside in shorts, Whereas in Florida, you don't go outside ever, except the 2 months, maybe 3 months a year in the winter when it's like it feels now in Colorado. So
growing up there, I was lived in Florida until I was almost 18, and then moved straight to Vancouver, Canada to go to.
Oh, you lived in Canada? I didn't know that.
Digipen to learn to make video games. Yeah, I lived in Vancouver for 2 years. It was a great place to live when you have just turned 18, because 18 is the beer legal age. I'm like 21 here. But somehow I made it through Digipen and moved down to Washington. But Yeah, it's been I don't think we've been quite as we hit 96 a couple of days ago, which in the grand scheme of things, that's no 110. But of course, last year we were at 110, and I read that the heat wave is now so aggressive that that it's been named. That now we're going to start naming heat waves.
Wow,
just like they name.
That's pretty hot for being as far north as you are.
Hurricanes.
That's rough hot.
Well, last year after the heat dome, during the heat dome, we went to Home Depot and got like, that styrofoam insulation with the reflective side, and we cut out panels of that and stuck it in every window. And I had a. Unfortunately, my house had, I forget what they're called, but the kind of windows open this way instead of that way.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, they're cool. Previous owner installed them, but it means it's hard to get an AC, exhaust tube in there. You got to rig it, yeah. So I had my room AC, and then we built like a barricade in the hall, out of one of these styrofoam things with a little hole for the cat to go through. Okay. And we closed all the doors except our media room, so we're just in this little tiny bubble of space with an AC running, and it took about 5 to 10 degrees off of the external heat. It was slightly cooler inside.
Yeah. You live in an older house though, is like built in the 50s.
Well, I think the house is actually pretty well insulated. And the reason I think that is that my furnace died, and when they came out to replace it, they said, "Why don't you spend an extra couple grand and we'll give you a heat pump?" And I said, "Well, I feel like I need things to be cooler. I don't know what having a heat pump will do to make things cool, since it's pumping heat." Like, no, it pumps heat out of your house. It's fantastic. It actually heats the outdoors and it exhausts cool into your house.
Okay, I didn't know that's how it worked. I feel like okay.
I was like, man, physics. But I was very skeptical. I was like, well, that sounds like the kind of thing and I read online, like, yeah, heat pumps for the moderate climate. And I was like, 110 degrees is not moderate, and that's what I care about. Because by definition it was moderate. You just open the window. But they kept kind of pushing it, so they got fine. And like to the point where it's like everybody just said get the heat pump. So sure enough, I got the heat pump. And I tell you what, Ken, it's been just a solid whatever I set the thermostat to all summer.
Is that basically just like in the attic pumping out the hot air, kind of sucking in the cool air from underneath?
It's an outdoor unit. And there are coolant lines, and so I'm not sure where the physics magic happens. I added a hot air return.
Yeah.
Remember Terry Gilliam's movie Brazil? I got a big duct going through my living room, so I can have a return. Okay. But no, I tell you, it's every day. It's whatever I set it to, 60 something.
So you don't have an AC.
No AC. It's a whole house heat pump system.
Cool.
And then at night I'm totally decadent. I crank it down to 63 degrees and sleep like a baby.
I wonder if that is more efficient electricity wise than an actual AC unit.
Yeah, they're supposed to be.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was a long ad for a heat pump. If anybody ever watches this.
Yeah, when we moved here, this house didn't have AC at all. And this is the house I grew up in. Well, didn't grow up in, but from 13 to like 18, I lived in this house. So went to high school in this house. Yeah. And we never had an AC ever.
Okay.
I think we had a swamp cooler for the early part, but like even then, I don't ever remember having that stuff on. It was just in the summertime, you just open the windows. But for some reason, when we moved back, even after living in Florida, it was just like, we had to get an AC. It was just too hot when summer rolled around, the first summer we were here. And now it's like, well, we also like to keep it at like 68, so.
It's because you spent some time in Florida. That's what we do.
We're used to the AC in Florida, I guess.
Crank it down.
Yeah.
So did you add a whole house AC?
Yep. Yeah. Well, it just runs through your heater system. So like it uses the same system. They just install the condenser unit in the backyard or whatever it is, the fan with all the radiators in it. And then that just runs straight to the heater essentially. And then it just runs through all the same stuff. So the only thing that sucks really bad is because it's a heater system in the house. It's a 2-story house it's a basement. So single story house with a basement, but all of the vents are in the floors upstairs, right? So your main living is upstairs, so the vents are in the floors, which is great for heater, right? Because heat rises. But when it's AC, the floors are like 10 degrees cooler than the rest of it. Like just like that foot of the floor, so your feet are freezing all the time. But then
okay. So question, because I thought about this, and like I said, I bit the bullet. I had them install a return in the ceiling because there weren't any ducts. I, like you, have ducts going through between the two floors, and so same deal. I got my vents on the floor, and they were 50-50. Like, yeah, you could, the return might help a bit. And I went in and did it. So now I got a big old return in my hallway upstairs, sucking that hot air up, and
that would probably help a lot.
Yeah, because I don't have, it's not like I have a duplicate of this house with no return to compare it.
Right.
But I've marveled at how evenly distributed, even with an old shitty vent system.
Our basement is way colder than upstairs because when it's a basement, but also again, all the vents are on either my ceiling or upstairs on the floor, so that like the cool air is right there at the the top, and it's just sinking down constantly. And so upstairs it's harder to cool the upstairs for sure. But we have ceiling fans upstairs, so we just kind of keep those on to help circulate the air. But your feet are still like you're sitting on the couch and there's an air vent underneath the couch and it's blowing out cold air.
And picture everybody just walking around in like shorts and undershirts, and then just big old fur boots.
Whatever. It's better. It is what it is. But
what are you gonna do?
Definitely nice to have the AC for sure.
We should talk about
especially since it runs on blockchain.
Yes. Well, I think that would keep your house warm in the winter for sure.
What's funny is when I was mining, I was in Florida and I mined through the summer, and then one of the main coins that I mined changed their algorithm to be processor intensive versus video card intensive. So I didn't want to rebuild all my rigs to be processor. So I sold all my rigs when wintertime rolled around. And now I'm somewhere cold where it'd be awesome to have rigs, and I'm just like, oh, not those anymore.
Heat your house. That's a good segue. We're gonna do this on reverse order because we should. I don't know. Maybe when you're doing a cast like this, you want to bury the lead and like have your calls to action. Because you watch like the hour and a half of the guy ranting about whatever his theory is, and at the end it's like, don't forget to subscribe. And it's like, well, if you made it this far, I guess. So if anybody ever watches this from Volition, we'll ask you to do things at the very end of this. That's probably why nobody comes on live, because they want to just fast forward through it and then get the call to action.
Right.
Because they know we're not going to lead with that.
Right.
Right.
Well, we could try.
Yeah, we should. Here, hey, if you're watching for Volition, here are the 5 things. Okay, thanks. We're just going to babble for another hour. See ya.
Well, typically, all the other streams we've done, we've gone straight to whatever it is our topic was. We've never really just chatted.
That's why our viewership is falling. It fell from 7 to 3. That's more than the 50% reduction.
Guess we're talking too much.
Just do a little rambling, and people are like, nope.
Well, if they'd like, they could join and ramble with us. Keep us on topic.
Yeah, stay on topic, guys. No force of the universe can keep me on topic. Somebody heard me. Like, it was crazy. I was at lunch, and I want to see if our friend, we're going to see, he may be shy, but I want to see if he'll come on a future session, because he's a guy who's been working on his own crypto project. Super smart guy, very much a decentralization believer. And earlier, on multiple times over the years, I've been like, oh yeah, we're making a blockchain, there's identity and miners need to be identified and there's no proof of work. And so finally at lunch, earlier in the week, I was like, well, remind me of the thing you're doing. I was like, oh, this is a bit and like, then the light went on and he was like, direct to front, to the sacred cow of trustlessness. And we got into this like 90-minute kind of quasi-drunken No, you're a towel. No, it was actually it was a pretty good debate, and it's the debate I've been wasting. We've had it a bit internally,
Yeah.
but of course we're all working on the same project, so maybe we're a little more receptive. But it was great to have somebody finally really point out their guns at me and be like, no, there's when
Did
this
he poo-poo all over it.
well, it's when the society crumbles and blah blah blah. And so I was trying to. There's so many pieces here to carve out a space where it's like, well, for day-to-day use, if you're not concerned about the collapse of society, and you just need to trade a trading card with somebody, and you're not, the zombies aren't at your doors or whatever. We're not in full civil war with all the other color states. Maybe there's something here. But I thought it was fast. So I want to see if I can bring him on as a guest and litigate some of the concepts, because there's this a maximalist strong case.
Sure.
I feel like there's kind of a day-to-day case, and I think there's just terminology, because I was with another person, I was discussing trustlessness. I was like, well, what's your definition of trustlessness? And he was like, well, basically just decentralized. And I thought that was fascinating, because he's a guy who's just steeped in the world of crypto. I mean, he runs a big mining farm. He's really into crypto.
Right.
And it was interesting to hear him say, oh, well, by trustlessness, I just mean like you've replicated the server a bit, and maybe several parties are operating it. And I was like,
Yeah,
well, that's
simple as not being centralized.
Yeah, that just seems like a much softer, less bold claim than what I would define trustlessness to be.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that makes sense though, because really at its core, that's all it is, right? Is like not having all your eggs in one basket and being able to keep the data not localized. I guess it's as simple as
Here's what.
How do you define it then? Like, what if you got more to it than that? Like, what is your definition?
Oh, maybe I drank the Kool-Aid
of that in some way,
and my body converted the Kool-Aid to some other substance. Because earlier, when I first started, I was like, tell me all the crypto things, and I drank that Kool-Aid, and then immediately my body was just like, nope, it's lemonade now or whatever. But no, in my understanding, trustlessness also implies a lack of recourse and anonymity and a complete severing to the lawful world, because we have an algorithm. And so we're saying, look, I don't need a court anymore. I don't need a judge. I don't need a jury. I don't need anyone. We have an algorithm. And that all the stuff that the courts used to do and government used to do, the algorithm does. And as long as this algorithm is operated, you don't need a government. At least not for transacting money.
That's very threatening.
Well, so when you say trustlessness, and again, it's like, well, there's no, again, it's to me just a total misnomer, right? But it's like, well, I don't have to trust an authority. I don't have to trust a government or a court or my peers. I have to trust the other party I'm doing business with. I don't have to trust the operator, because I know the algorithm will perform everything correctly. So there's trustlessness.
Yeah, it's interesting that he would define it as simply decentralized, because what he says is decentralized, not necessarily trustless. But I kind of see the logic that he's trying to apply to it.
I don't want to, this is just a throwaway thing, and I wasn't there to really litigate the term or push.
Yeah,
if I pushed, you would have been like, oh yeah, no, I mean, without the rule of law.
Right. That small key.
Yeah. It's a decentralized network for extortion. No, it's got to be trustless if you're gonna do something spicy with it.
Fair enough.
If anybody's watching, I hope nobody interprets that as a endorsement of any of that thinking.
Right. Yeah, where it's just all we're just blabbering.
Well, that, and again, I want to bring. I'm saying again. I've said again like 100 times before I'm saying something the first time, so I need to wean myself off of that. But the philosophical, the ultimate philosophical piece here is is trustlessness possible? Because it's fun to think an algorithm will save us. But I think if you start picking at it, it's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And you arrive at a place where like, no, that's either not possible, or were it to be possible in the scenario where it would be useful, it'll be the least of your concerns. And so the conversation I was having over lunch was like just doing a simple transaction. It's like, well, if society has completely collapsed, is there really going to be an internet? Is there really going to be a coordinated network of servers
and I've always said that like things like, Bitcoin is not for the collapse of society. It is for the success of society, right? There's a difference. And you have to learn, I think, to make it a part of the success, you've got to learn to integrate it, whether it's through our laws, or just however we're functioning as we move forward as a society to keep our organization and our barriers and our, keep people good. I think you need to, having that blockchain trustlessness can help, but it's not the answer.
I'd like to understand that more, because as you know, I believe that the only use case for trustlessness is extra legal activity. That's my belief.
You think so, huh?
I mean, I can't think of any other reason that you need it.
Yeah, I haven't argued that point in a long time. So
it's been a while, man. We have an audience of
right now.
We have an audience of 0 to entertain. Like, and for the spirits in the room, where's my cat? For my cat.
I think when you're talking about from a monetary standpoint, that may be true, right? Like, or to a point, it may be true. But I think there's a lot of use cases where you have many people involved, like chains of custody, possibly stuff like that, where there's a lot of different people involved in playing. You don't want any one person to control it. Not even from a legal sense, from a monetary, legal, financial transaction sense, but you just want it to be totally public, but something has to control it, but you don't want a single entity to control it. That's where I think that applies. And it's not skirting the law, it's creating law, right, for that community.
Well, let's talk about coffee shops.
Okay.
Right? Because coffee shops are decentralized, right? There are a couple of big chains, but there are a whole lot of independent chains,
right, and
a whole lot of just places you can get coffee and coffee vending machines.
Sure.
And you can make coffee in your office with the Keurig or whatever. It's no monopoly on. Again, I'm ignoring the rest of the supply chain. I'm just saying in terms of folks who operate and vend coffee, right? Now those shops are chartered by the state. Before you open a coffee shop, you got to go get a business license. You got to buy some insurance. You got to make sure the health inspector's okay with you.
I know you're going. You're already trying to tie it back to that's your authority. Is the state is your authority?
Well, no, because you might say, oh, well, it's relying on a centralized authority, so the state is controlling those coffee shops, and that's socialism. The state's just running the coffee business and centrally planning coffee. And it's like, well, no, like that's demonstrably false.
Right.
That the regulation doesn't mean ownership. The state isn't operating those shops. It's not carrying the coffee inventory. It's not taking the risk. It's not deciding whether to do a pour over or an espresso. That's not the purview of the state. I mean, Starbucks could go and lobby the state and say, hey, for the health and safety of people who drink coffee, there should be a whole bunch of business they have to go through that we happen to be set up to do. And then they'll, maybe the independent coffee shops will have a harder time. But so far, the state's been pretty resilient against Starbucks's nefarious attempts to monopolize coffee. So that's all I was saying. Like, yeah, sure. Well, the state regulates and licenses. There's a state, and that state has to be okay with you selling coffee. There's not there is in fact a decentralized network of cocaine shops. But cocaine at your own risk, I suppose. This is coffee, by the way.
Yes. I don't like coffee, so I'm clear of that.
So we fully decentralized, and you have a without trustlessness, right? Because if that coffee shop serves me a very hot cup of coffee, and I put it in my lap while I'm driving, and then it destroys my vagina because it's boiling. I can still go to court and sue that coffee shop and prevail.
Yeah.
Thanks to the world of trustful, the lawful world of trust. So I guess that's just the point I'm making is you don't need trustlessness to have decentralization or resilience, at least not for coffee.
And that I see where you're going with that, and that's trusting that localized governing body, aka that state or that country, is trustworthy, right?
That's true.
Okay, and then what happens when you globalize and you don't have a central governing body that applies to whatever activity you're trying to do that may be legal? It may not be illegal in any of those states or countries, but there's no governing body from a global standpoint.
Well, wherever you are, and a lot of people don't know this, but there's no place you can go on the planet where you're not subject to the laws of some nation.
Yeah, I get that.
Right. And it's very specific. You can't just go build a floating raft. You have to anchor it to the ground.
Right.
And then you can finally say, I'm going to make up my own laws. But then those are your laws. So wherever you go, there's going to be laws.
But what we're talking about is laws within those laws, right? Like community laws, like saying, hey, you can or cannot participate in this portion of the community, or our community rules are you have to sign on every day or your character dies, things of that nature that that are within all the laws of all the governing bodies, but a law for your community. And you have many players or, entities that are contributing to that community, but they need to follow laws and rules within that. And you don't want any single governing body to control that. That's where that trustlessness comes in.
Well,
it's underneath all the rules and laws. It's the lowest, I guess, highest layer of that.
Well, if the operation of that thing is legal in all the countries where it's being operated, then in all of those countries there will be some form of
recourse.
Recourse. Yeah,
it may be too petty for those laws or courts to care, though. Again, it may be a petty thing. It may be a small thing that's petty in the sense of all law for those countries or states, but not petty to the project.
Well, I can. It doesn't matter how petty. The court's not going to throw out a legal dispute because it's petty, right? They're going to look at it and say, well, what's the contract here? They may look at damages, so maybe there are no damages. So you said you'd give me a red pixel and you give me a green pixel. It's like, well, what did you pay for that? Nothing. It's like, okay, you have no damages. Please go away. You have no recourse. But you said I'd get a red pixel.
But the trustless network would guarantee you get the red pixel, so that would never have to happen. It reduces the overhead of trying to fix issues that arise from people that are non-trustworthy, that are interacting in the community, right?
Yeah, I wonder though if something that is petty like that, if it is worth if it's something that's A, petty, and B, perfectly legal, right? It's not illegal to have a green pixel or a red pixel, but it's so petty, nobody really cares. Just open another account and maybe you'll get a red pixel. Do you need the cost and overhead? Do you need to share bandwidth with drug dealers and extortionists and child pornographers? Do you literally need? Because there's a cost to that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm just here for the green and red pixels, man. I don't, I'm not running ransomware attacks. That's some other person on the exact same network as me. That's indistinguishable from me. I'm really just here for the apes.
Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. I guess there's also hope and dream behind the concept of being able to minimize big government, I think, for a lot of people. Like they don't want the big rules and the big laws and to be controlled by other people, right? The problem is you're controlled by other people. I think that mentally doesn't sit well with some people, so they feel an algorithm is more trustworthy, and that just makes them feel better. Maybe that's all it is. It just makes them feel better.
I'm gonna marry an algorithm. You don't understand me. Nobody understands. Some of my friends are algorithms.
I mean, you trust the algorithm; they're not going to cheat on you.
Man, there's so much to unpack there.
Just feels good, man.
Just
knowing that nobody can take my Bitcoin away, even though they can throw me in jail forever until I give them my private keys. I understand that.
You can,
or put a gun to my head in some countries, but they're not taking my Bitcoin.
Take my Bitcoin.
They're not taking it.
Man, there's so much to unpack, and there's like 5 different things to unpack there. And what you just said, it's so interesting because there's so much stuff. The idea that you could ever live we should start putting pins. I mean, nobody gives a rip, but I'll touch on just the idea that you could live not subject to the rules of other people. Is tantalizing and interesting.
And imagine if we were to start over, right? Like if hypothetically, we know we have the information, we have the ability to build these decentralized Byzantine fault things, right? And society does collapse, and you start over with that technology available, right? You could build society with that concept.
It'll be exactly the same. It'll be exactly you'll marvel at how exactly the same it all is. And
why do you think that?
Well, because I think that the algorithm and things are ephemeral things created by humans. We're projecting something out into the world. It's not like if we just changed the economic law, humans would then be different. It's the opposite. All these things arise out of human behavior. These markets and class inequalities and exploitation control are like it's like a Jungian archetype, or how Joseph Campbell adapted it to story ideas. It's like these governance archetypes arise, whether it's a dude with the stick who's just bigger than you, or a committee of concerned neighbors who really are concerned about the fact that that there are 2 guys living in a house together that aren't related, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So you can push the peas around on the plate. At the end of the day, your fellow humans are gonna come for you.
Sure.
I got really I got all sorts of shit in my feed, and after Roe fell and the Libertarian Party, I think we talked about this. They were I read all the nonsense. I try to read a bunch of nonsense and triangulate. And so on Twitter, I just I've always read, as my libertarian source has always been reason.com in my feed, and I rarely look at the Libertarian Party shit. So when people are like, libertarians think blah blah blah, I have to go and double check the platform, and be like, do they? It's like, oh yeah, I guess I do. But on Twitter, I just happened to see one of their tweets, and they were like, "You're like, man, if you're not happy about Roe falling, there should be national divorce." And it's just like, what does that even mean? And I've said this a couple times. So people have you heard of national divorce, Ken?
No.
I'm amazed at nobody, because it was like some fucking, pardon my French, what's her face, Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody, just some reprehensible caricature or another, some awful right wing, we're just like, if you maybe there should just be red states and blue states, and we'll just all agree to just go our separate ways, right? We can't agree over guns and abortions, mostly. And whether or not the government should provide benefits.
Right.
Guns, abortions, and government benefits. Or who those benefits should go to. We like them for some people, but not others. And so let's just separate. Let's split the union up, and Washington State and maybe Colorado have fun being friends. Blue states and then Florida and Alabama can get together, whatever. It's a national divorce. And so the Libertarian Party comes out and they're like, yeah, gosh, the debate over bodily autonomy is really complex. There's a lot of nuance here. I mean, whether or not people should be able to control their own bodies. It's, as a libertarian, we believe in having a subtle debate here. It's like fucking libertarians. And yeah, I mean, in some cases you might not be a person. But then really, shouldn't we just let the states decide? Isn't national divorce exactly the answer? The states can decide. And it's just like, man, like clearly any idea you have about rights as a ideal, right, are just chucked out the window. It's like, oh no, I mean, we say we believe in an inalienable right to something like free speech. But the moment somebody says something we don't like, it's like, well, we should just separate, and me and my buddies will decide what our definition of free speech is, and you guys over there can decide what your definition is, and we just, you stay on your side of the.
I mean, so I think that idea arises because the states' rights are minimized at this point. And I think that somebody who's thinking that way has kind of the way the country was founded was heavy on states' rights.
That's a federal union, under a Bill of Rights with the Constitution, but for stuff like how long can you sprinkle your yard for? That should be just the states should figure that stuff out, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, federal government has grown quite a lot.
Absolutely.
Obviously, not that that's I'm not debating whether that's good or bad, but states' rights were heavily removed at one point in our history.
Yeah. And
so I think that plays poorly for some people. And so they get, and I think a lot of people forget how much rights states had. And so now you've got people like that saying, well, let's just have half the country secede.
I tell you, man, you get the pesky federal government saying you can't own people anymore, just what the heck, I came to this country so I could, God damn it.
Yeah.
No, the contrarian position.
Obviously, some things are meant to be, need to be, federal. But.
It's not obvious, though. That's the thing. It's not obvious. So I guess where I'm going with this is like wherever you go at any level, you're subject to the capricious whim of a mob, whether that mob is controlling the federal government. And perfectly happy to chuck out, 50 years of law after explicitly saying under oath, though, this is established law. Or you were unfortunate enough to live in a red or blue state, depending on your preference. You're still going to be at the whim. And I think the more fragmented these are, even the more hard it's going to be to operate any kind of network that is outside of the boundaries of those. I don't think that a patchwork of warring ideological police states is going to necessarily make the case for crypto. Though it sounds like the perfect case for crypto, right?
Right.
I think it's like, well, now it's my violence hack, that we've talked about. Well, now I'm being held with no charges under suspicion of financing terrorism because somebody infiltrated my crypto forum, and I'm going to rot in prison, but they won't take my Bitcoin. And then pretty soon, the use case of that is so expensive that unless you're doing some really serious crime, it's just not worth the risk. Let's see. Tamara says, if society collapses, we have to rebuild. It's going to be the engineers who have significantly more value than others. Yes, that's in some fantasy world. I will be in charge. If I had the skill set to do that, I would be now. It doesn't need to collapse society. If I had the skill set to organize and manage and manipulate people, then I'd be doing that. I wouldn't be plunking away writing code at 2 a.m.
So to be fair, they're saying value, not control, right?
Politicians
will be valued over politicians, obviously.
What? No. If there were no money, it would then be about social capital.
True, and whoever can manipulate that's going to be in control.
And it turns out in our society, money tends to go to those people because they're really good at manipulating.
Right.
And again, the money's just a symptom. The money's not like, well,
Give
good,
me PAX funds.
we've cured you of capitalism. Like all the money's, we put all the money in the ocean and sank it. Like now there's no money here. Like, it's like, Elon Musk still. Yeah, no, the me. I have thoughts and ideas. I'm not gonna be in fucking charge after the collapse of society. I'll be like, can I help you build that yurt?
Well, you'll be valued though.
I'll be valued at exactly where I am today.
You think so?
I bet I will be no more or less. I bet my skills will be no more or less valuable.
I mean, those manipulators will definitely want you.
I'm being intellectually honest here. I love the thought of the fall of society, and the people say, who should be in charge of this? Boy, that Patrick Meehan guy. We really need an algorithm designed or some software optimized.
Manipulators are going to manipulate, but I believe that scientists, engineers, and people who actually work more than someone telling me their spin.
See, I'm not sure what that means. She just is saying, well, I believe in them telling the spin, right?
She said she believes in the engineer scientists more than someone who's just selling something.
I tell you what.
But of course, I mean, I think most people do, right? I think most people know that politicians are corrupt, or not corrupt, but they're selling themselves, right? That's
well, by corrupting, I mean they have a perverse incentive. And are they selling themselves, or are they selling the will of their constituents who pay them?
Well, sure, that's a better. Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
You know, you always catch them doing the opposite of the thing. It's like, hey, it's just my job, and man, like you hired me to advocate against drunk driving. I never said I wasn't going to, hit the bottle and get on the wheel. I'm not a hypocrite. This is my job to advocate against that.
Yeah.
The platform I'm running on. It's all the people in Hong Kong who were just these full-throated, libertarian capitalists. Once the Chinese took over, all of those intelligentsia, all those PhDs suddenly changed their tune, and maybe communism isn't so bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it totally depends on the place society is at that point.
Also, how do you know that they actually work in this statement, and how do you know that they're good? I gotta tell you, man, half of scientists below average.
Yeah,
it's like the old, what do you call the medical student who got straight C's?
Right. Well, and scientists, not that. I mean, I'm very much a science-oriented, fact-oriented, but scientists develop tools to tell them the answers they want sometimes.
Science is wrong so often. It's a wondering.
Well, I mean, it's always wrong, right? Because we're always learning. Science is always wrong to a point. To a point, because you're always learning something new and building on it. So you can't imagine that what we thought 100 years ago and then 100 years prior, they're like, man, those guys were idiots back then. Look how much we've learned. I mean, same thing's going to happen 100 years from now. They're going to look back and be like, man, we have learned so much. We were so wrong back then.
People used to think the earth was round.
Little did they know it was not even real.
It was a complex, multidimensional polyhedra.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I get where they're coming from. I think it goes back again. The argument where this comment was made was, if we were to start society over with what we know now, would a decentralized tool like a blockchain help organize or structure the new society in a way that gives humans or individual humans a little less control? It's more trusting in an maybe even just for financial standpoint, for money. If society collapsed and we still had Bitcoin, somehow there's still satellites running, we still have the internet, but all of social governmental society collapsed, would Bitcoin survive, and would we gravitate towards that? Versus
I think the answer is no and no. I think I will brain you for a can of beans and steal your guns. And no, we don't take Bitcoin here. Do you have any cattle? Or yeah, no, I don't think. I personally don't think so. I also think that hypothetical in terms of what should be valued today, it's like, well, if you're betting on the, and maybe that's the third reason, or if I already enumerate that reason, it's like, if you were betting on the fall of society, then maybe that, if you believe that Bitcoin is the thing that will survive, not on hypothetical, then maybe that justifies the value of holding Bitcoin.
Right.
If you believe that, or if you need to do something, groin-grabbingly illegal. But you know what? Here's, I'm going to flip around and say that just cynically, though I don't believe those things, a lot of people do. And there's always going to be crime. There are always going to be preppers. There's always going to be crime. There's always going to be doomsday folks.
Yeah.
And so maybe Bitcoin should be a reflection of that. Now that begs the question: the world definitely seems to be coming apart at the seams. The value of Bitcoin falls. Should be going up because those people should be even more. So maybe a lot of them are maybe they talk a good game about doomsday prep and doing crime, but when the rubber hits the road.
Well, I think it's small. It's a very small percentage of Bitcoin holders that are that, though. I think the larger percentage is clearly speculators and people trying to hedge, right? So
right. So as long as
it has hedged better than a lot of other assets. It's performed better in the collapse than a lot of other assets.
The price of gold the other night for no reason. It was just like
in the 10-year play, though, Bitcoin has performed far better than most of those other assets, even through economic turmoil.
So if it can continue to survive against regulation, or if it is allowed, so I think there are two forces coming in, as you know. Yes. There's regulations coming in. Now Bitcoin has been put on a shelf by the SEC, for example. They said, no, this is property. Like that's not a security.
Well, it's because they can tax it. Their angle is let's tax it hard.
Right. So the other force is the economic pressure from any decentralized, anonymized network that doesn't require trustlessness and is thus, in my theory of the world, going to be less expensive to operate. Why? Because we don't have to type a bunch of capital or solve a hash. So now the threat is not just from regulation, but, well, if you really just want to speculate or play a game of chance or trade a card, there's a by many orders of magnitude less expensive in terms of operation and transaction fees, an alternative. So that kind of leaves you in the position of like, yeah, unless you're really a maximalist and you do believe the crazy, or maybe there's always going to be enough speculation there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems to be like all things being equal, if there's a trustful decentralized network that you can speculate in a lawful fashion, then just dollars and cents, you're going to pay far fewer transaction fees.
That's
why
true.
Why would you swim in this incredibly slow, expensive,
Yeah.
That's the harpoon shot at the whale.
We're going to find out eventually, right? Like, so at some point, hopefully in our lifetimes, it either fails or succeeds, and we know, and it becomes a staple or is gone. I don't know. We'll see.
I wonder, and that's been my thesis with Volition, and we may not ultimately have the resources to promote that thinking and prove that out, but we won't be the only or first,
right?
And at some point somebody's I think there's gonna be enough lawful decentralization and enough online identity that we'll see that play out in the next 5 to 10 years. I think unless we meet with misfortune, we'll be around to
right.
To at least get a good idea where it's
going.
Have
a real hard crypto winter that really stifles a lot of it. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Volition call to actions. All 0 of you who are watching, thank you.
Well, we have one.
Somebody's watching?
Our first, Tamara, our first, or Tamara, our first comments. She was our first comment ever.
Tamara. Oh, well, you got to tell us how to pronounce her name. If it's Tamara or Tamara, for starters. And I didn't realize you were there. I hope you didn't think I was. Oh my goodness! Tamara, please join in our chat. I was such a condescending jerk. I thought Tamara was something you were pasting from Twitter.
Oh no!
It was some Twitter bot account.
No, I think the candidness of your response is good and healthy.
Oh my goodness!
No, it's
maybe
good.
I just got to lean
the
into
conversation again. None of this conversation should be taken personally.
Oh my goodness!
It's all brain bouncing. We're just talking.
Yes, it is, and I apologize. I'm so used to seeing hot takes on Twitter.
On your Twitter,
and my persona there is, you know, it's that classic thing. Since I'm playing as Cryptagon, I can just.
Well, now you're a face, buddy.
See, now you know who I am. I have to pretend to be nice. I actually just lean into eating mustache twirling snide. I'm figuring out, man.
Yeah. Well,
Tamara,
so,
thank you.
I don't know where you found us, but this is our first. Well, not our first, but we do this weekly, every Wednesday at this time. We do it, and honestly, if you're interested in this discussion, we will post links where you can join. And it's not something I've done yet. We actually post the link to this chat in our private Discord. Well, it's not private, in our Discord for the Volition project. And I can start posting the link in the YouTube comments as well. And then anybody on YouTube can join us in this chat. Mind you, we have decentralized power to boot you if you're a jerk. But Patrick.
Censorship resistant,
Gone. Just kidding.
See, you just proved my point, Ken. It's always gonna be some guy who's bigger than me trying to silence me,
pushing his thumb on your head.
Pushing it. Guy just could get political again after the frickin' and again, I'm sorry, guy. I'm so mad at the LP and just these just the world in general. I'm an angry little man, but pushing the thumb, after a couple years ago, we saw literally the knee of the state crushing the life out of a man, right? People were like, nobody was like, well, we should talk about qualified immunity. Everybody's just like, defund the police. It's like, oh, God damn it.
They just,
yeah. And as much as I'm shitting on libertarians, also at the time, it's like, libertarians are dumb. It's like, it's literally a flag with a boot crushing. Didn't you see the boot crushing you just put that on the yellow flag and that's the. Stop crushing me with your thumb, Ken.
Yeah, well, someone's got to have the power.
Hey, so calls to action, folks. If anybody,
we're almost at an hour, so
yeah. Well, this is fun. Look, go sign up for GamerCert. There's nothing in this community for you apart from long rambling, idiotic discussions like this one. And hey, if that's your bag, thanks. I don't know if we have anything new to contribute to that field of human endeavor. Though it's fun, but no, go sign up for GamerCert, because literally anything we do from here on out, you will need an ID. If you don't like GamerCert, then tell me, and we should talk about that. Hopefully nobody's like, what? There you have to sign up and go through KYC and have a digital ID. What? Like, I think we've been saying this for since early in the project, so nobody ought to be surprised. There's no scenario where people get to just have no recourse. That's our whole kind of deal. Particularly if you're a validator. We'll see how long it takes the card game to come to fruition, just because we're all the reasons. If we do other stuff on the side, it's all going to be self-serve mining based on digital ID. If we spin up other projects, other chains, other collectibles, whatever, number one. So if you don't like GamerCert, sound off.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about it. As you recall, when I started the project, I thought you'll all be going and paying your $20 and getting Estonian e-citizenships.
Yeah.
And I'll write a node that just checks against whatever their root cert is. That's not a thing available to me. I thought it would be. It wasn't, so I had to make GamerCert. Same with ID Me. They want $20,000 a month, plus a fee per sign up. Which again, is not like it's your ID. Like if you can go get an ID Me cert and I can check it, I can update the node to check it. Happy to accept ID me.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a thing where they're very B2B, but if you go to their site, there's some kind of like you can get an ID me. So I don't know what that means. But if you if you find, so if you don't like GamerCert and you find any other service that will go and give you that will look at your government ID and then issue to you a digital certificate. I don't care, whether it's anonymized or not. That's up to you. I'm happy to integrate it with the node and accept those in lieu. Our model will be, we will just double up on rewards for each identity vendor the node recognizes. Polygon has talked a good game about anonymized self-sovereign identity. When I look at their schematic drawing, there's just a box where like identity provider goes here, and then like, look, zero proof, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know who that, there's no place I can sign up and go through KYC on Polygon and get an
Maybe
identity.
they need to talk to you.
I did. They're not, I got a strong intro actually to the head of their investments, and like a super hot intro.
Yeah.
And it was just a I'm surprised because usually folks like that will at least talk through and hear your stupid plan so they can put the money in. Usually, but maybe my plans were so stupid, or maybe they are plans to be. Anyway, long story short, I'm wearing my Cryptogog hat now, so Cryptogog doesn't care about GamerCert. Right. But if I take off my Cryptogog hat, put on my GamerCert hat, I'll say, well, of course I really wanted to use GamerCert, but from Cryptogog's perspective, which is what we care about, just go get your digital personal digital certificate, and we'll accept that, and tell us your favorite vendor. And then I'll happily integrate any third-party identity vendor with Volition. We are going to implement atomic swaps. I am freaking done waiting for this. I don't know what their deal is. This liquidity provider, they only would have been able to build a marketplace for fiat to game assets.
Still,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but still, that's a value if they were able to get back.
Would have been great. Yeah, I don't know what their deal is. It's literally been 4 months of like, I sent my compliance doc like 3 or 4 months ago. I was like, is our use case compliant? And they're too busy. They got a big investment. So bless their hearts. We'll circle back with them later on. Full speed ahead on atomic swaps. Far out of my, that's now integrating directly with Bitcoin, integrating directly with ETH. So I got to figure out how we're going to, either hire somebody or build that in-house.
If anybody out there knows how to do it, you happen to see this, reach out to us.
Happy to pay you if you are very versant in either of those protocols. I would love a collaborator or two, even just to walk me through. I understand all the cryptography. I can implement the Volition piece, no problem. The trick is going to be integrating that into the wallet and making sure the transactions on the ETH or Bitcoin side of the house are structured and sent properly. It's going to be a pretty hand cranked, way of converting vol to crypto, other crypto, because you're going to have to know who you're. There's not really an exchange. We should talk about DeFi exchanges too, not today. But if you're a miner, so that's something. So sign up for GamerCert if you want to do anything with us at all, please, or talk to me about it. Number 2, atomic swaps. I think we're going to commit to that. I'm going to shut down all of the mining nodes we are running. That's going to leave probably 2. We'll change the terms of service to let you guys continue and own those data assets.
Yeah, and anybody else also that is interested in mining this project, you're more than welcome to join. Right? Like we can still sign people up if they want to, or let people mine or whatever it is.
I'm certainly not. In fact, I need to take Volbot off.
The other miners will.
I should update.
How's that going to work, Patrick?
So
all of our miners and somebody else wants to mine the beta chain.
Yeah. So in the latest release of Volwall, on the beta chain, I published the gamer cert key, and again, nobody said how do I self-serve a mining node, because I think everybody wants to mine already has a node. I haven't thrown a switch that would assassinate nodes that don't have identities,
right?
And I don't think I'm going to do that. But anybody new without Volbot to provision it,
they have to gamer cert it.
They're going to have to gamer cert it, and it's months. It's been a month.
They've known it's coming. Everybody that's involved knows that's coming. So
yeah.
All righty. Well, I posted the links to both the GamerCert Discord as well as the Volition Discord. So if anybody out there is watching this today or tomorrow, you're more than welcome to join.
Tamara, thank you for watching and engaging.
Yes. And if you know anybody that is interested in this topic, share this stream with them and get them in here and let's talk.
People should be very mad at me for saying the things I say.
Yeah, they should come in and tell Patrick what a jerky is.
Nobody likes me. The crypto creators don't like me because I'm doing a crypto project, and the crypto bros hate me because I think crypto's unsustainable. I'm way out on my own little island of contrarianness, shaking my fist at everyone.
Well, on that note, I guess we'll talk next week.
Have a good weekend.
All righty.